I am going to go ahead and do a video tonight. Wasn't really prepared for it, but I'm going to go ahead and do it since tomorrow my husband and I are going to go up and see our son at college. Tomorrow's my husband's birthday as well. My son is moving into a new apartment, so we're going to go see that and have lunch with him and visit with him. So I thought I'd come out here tonight and just go ahead and do a video, kind of like I did with the bunny one. It's probably going to be in 2 or 3 segments. I'll piece them together to make one long video, but you can follow along with me if you want to in this part. I'm going to be stitching out the Soda Shop one. This one is not released, so this is a test stitch. It was tested before. I made one change to it that I think is going to be really, really cute, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch that out. So let me pull my thread here and get that started. I went ahead and attached my vinyl. I know you guys are probably thinking, why is that sign so dark? It's because I have some reflective thread that I'm going to try. It's really silver. I have another reflective thread that's a little bit darker, but I'm going to use this one. I don't know what kind of look I'm going for, but we're going to see what happens when I use the silver thread. So right now, the color stop is going to be the lights that go around the sign, and that is going to need to be something super bright. You know, neon lights come in different colors. I am going to pick a really pretty, oh, let's see what color. I love this reflective yellow that I used on the other one. So I think I'm going to try that or an orange. I don't know which one I want to use with that. I think I want the orange one. Well, I don't know that I have a whole lot of energy, but we're going to take it tonight because tomorrow we really are going to be gone all day and I won't be able to hop on. But I think I am going to use the orange one for my neon lights, and that's for the trim piece that goes around the outside of the sign. So the yellow is gorgeous, but I don't know that it's going to look great with this beautiful maroon vinyl from My Punk Embroidery. So I'm going to go ahead and use this orange. I did wind some bobbin thread off of this spool so that it matches. You're going to see it on the back of the sign. If you're looking at it on the back of your table or the countertop or wherever you might have your napkin holder, you will see the back thread. So I wanted it to match the vinyl as close as possible, at least for the outline of the sign. You'll see the top of it. So let me go ahead and get this all ready. And let's see. I am tired. This has been an extremely long week at work. And for those of you that don't know, I do drive an hour each way to work and back. So by the time some of you are home and in your jammies, I'm still just on the road. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this. This is going to stitch the arch of lights. And they are done in a knot. Not a French knot, but a series of knots all the way across the top. They're mimicking, I'm going to get rid of this thread tail here. They're mimicking light bulbs, I guess. They're round and they are 3D. They stick up above the vinyl. And, oh yeah, that's going to look really good with that orange neon thread or that orange thread. So, my son goes to college about 3 hours, not quite 3 hours north of us, so we're going to be on the road quite a bit tomorrow. He does have to work at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, so we're going to get there long enough to have lunch with him, give him his phone that he ordered, and see his new apartment, and then we're going to turn around and come back home. So I may or may not be back on tomorrow night. I don't know, but I'll definitely be on Sunday sometime. We have gotten a ton of rain this week, and our pond is very full. I'll share some pictures in the group here in a little bit. But so the signs, the diner signs, this one is a Soda Shop sign, are done in 2 hoopings, and you want to stitch the sign first. I highly recommend doing that on tearaway stabilizer, so you can just pop it right out of the hoop. The sign itself, or the base, the holder, is going to be done in, I use cutaway. Tell I can't tear that real easily with my finger. I am going to be using this beautiful, beautiful silver patent, also for my embroidery, as an actual holder. So I want this to be bright and reflective, and I'm going to be using some of that gorgeous thread. So while this stitches out, I'm going to go ahead and close the video off for a few minutes, let this finish, get it trimmed out, come back and add it to the holder. I will video the entire holder stitch out because that one is going to take less time than this one. So just check back in a little bit. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Penny. Hey, everybody. I'm back. I have my sign cut out, snipped, and ready to merge. Got a little thread tail here. Anyway, I used reflective thread, I guess. It's probably metallic in there for the very first time tonight, and let me just say that it's extremely temperamental, much pickier, or a bear or a booger or whatever you want to call it. There's lots of choice names that roll through my head, but anyway, it is much more difficult to deal with, for me anyway, than even metallic thread. So I stretched it out, I pulled it through my fingers to make sure that it was wound and there were no knots. I changed the needle and used a bigger one. Normally, I don't ever change my embroidery needle. I always use a 7511, but this time I used a 9014, which was recommended by the thread company. When I looked at their listing, it said that they recommend this 9014. I guess it has a larger eye in it. But I even slowed my machine down. I moved the thread out of the way, and it still gave me some fits. But I like the way it came out once I got past all the craziness of it. So now I've got my second hooping going. I've already done the outline stitch around the holder itself. I'm going to stitch now. I'm on step number 3. If anybody gets to this sooner or later, step number 3 is the beginning of the actual design itself onto the holder. And that is going to be the placement stitch for the arrow. So I am just going to go ahead and stitch it out in this same beautiful dark thread so that I can see it. I am going to let that do its little business here. So what I'm going to do is put another piece of this same maroon color as the arrow, and then I'm going to use that same orange as the lights on the arrow itself. So if you give me just a second and bear with me, I'll get that done while you guys are here watching me, listening to me, hearing me. I am going to just use a piece of scrap that I have. It is actually big enough to cover, so I'm going to just trim that up where I don't need the excess at, secure it in place. So if you can see, it is going to fit absolutely perfectly over that arrow. So I'm just going to Scotch tape this into place so that I don't have to worry with pins getting in the tight spots around. I don't usually use adhesive spray, temporary adhesive spray of any kind around my machine. I have used it in the past. I've just learned to do things without it because I just don't like having to deal with it being sticky or tacky or gumming up the thread or the needle. So I'm just going to pull my thread tail out just a little bit. This is going to run a tack down stitch over that arrow now, and then I'm going to be able to go on to the rest of the steps in the design. So if you notice, it's going to stitch almost perfectly. I couldn't have planned that any better for that piece of scrap that I had. This was just the other piece to it, but it's what I cut the sign out of to begin with. So what it's going to do now, and I'm just going to pop it out of here and show you guys real quick, is it stitched the outline of the arrow on the sign. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that thread tail. The next color stop on here is actually the lights. I'm not going to trim this out just yet. because I want to just give it a little bit more stability and time here. I'm going to let it stitch out the lights just like on the sign itself. I'm going to use that really pretty orange color that I had earlier because I want to keep it the same. I want some continuity in my sign. I want it to look like it actually belongs there. It matches the top part of the sign. You guys can do whatever you want to. Neon thread is so pretty when you're looking at dark colors of vinyl, and it looks really amazing in person next to this beautiful maroon. I don't know, it's one of the brilliant colors that my punk embroidery had. I don't know if Amy still has it or not. Oh, so you guys will know, if you're not a member of her group, you need to be. You definitely need to be a member of her group. She is going to be having a huge sale next week. Tentatively scheduled to start on Monday afternoon sometime. Make sure you watch the group. You are not going to want to miss it. Make sure that you read all of the information for it. I am in no way affiliated with My Punk Embroidery. I am just a huge fan and a good customer. So, this is going to continue stitching out the lights now. And these are called candle wick stitches. I looked that up while you guys were not on video with me. But if you notice on these, it runs a bean stitch backwards, and then it runs the candle wick stitches all the way down that bean stitch. The reason I run that bean stitch first is because the candle wick stitches, or the bulbs in this case, are just far enough apart that there is a little thread in between them. I don't want you to snip that because I don't want you to run the chance of your candle wick stitches coming undone. So I just ran that bean stitch right behind it just to give it a little bit more visual in between the bulbs, like it's purposeful and it's supposed to be there, so it really is. So this is going to stitch out. I was able to put my machine back to full speed, and on my little single needle that's 650 stitches per minute. So if you're doing a multi-needle or some other single needle machines, you're probably going to go a lot faster than me. I do have one little piece here that I want to snip off while that is continuing to stitch there. Some of these little corners are hard to trim out. Here we go. The satin is going to go over this corner when I line the sign up. I know, the bubbles, aren't they really cool? You can't have the swirly vinyls, Miss Penny. I already told Amy I want the whole truckload, so you're just going to have to come up here and get some from me. Because I'm going to go to Amy's, and I just might have to kidnap her and whoever has that vinyl, because I know that Kim from Honey Bear Studios is also wanting some of that vinyl. So we're just going to have a little competition to see what we can do with that vinyl, I think. They don't know it yet, but I'm planning a competition. So, anyway, I tried to trim out as much as I can. There will be satin stitching going around the edges and stuff, so it's going to cover most of those little imperfections. This has one little thread that's giving me a fit. There we go. So, I got my sign back. Where there were jump stitches between the letters, I do have a little tiny tail, so I'm just going to take this moment to go ahead and get rid of those. If your machine cuts jump stitches, just know that I am jealous. This single needle does not, my multi-needle does, but the reason I test everything on my single needle is because I know that a lot of you have a single needle. And if I can get it to work, then I know you can get it to work. So I'm going to change this out now, and I am going to go ahead and trim this out because the next thing that's going to stitch is the satin around the arrow. So I need to go ahead and trim my arrow out. Just going to take it out. I'm sorry you guys get to look at my machine for a minute. It's a beautiful machine. It does great work. I know you're probably not really wanting to look at it, but you're going to for a minute if you're going to stick with me, because I'm just going to trim out this arrow. change my thread to match, and put it back in the machine. Is there any other kind of diner style signs that you guys want to see? I got this Soda Shop one going. I do have another one in the works. That's not this kind of sign, but it is a holder, and it will be a 2-hooper. But if there's anything you guys want me to try in a single hoop, yes, I am still working on the series for the square holders from Hobby Lobby. For those of you who can't find the arch top ones at the Dollar Tree and don't want to order a case of 24 online, you can use this design on other ones. Vicky had a great idea and tested it, and it works wonders, using some 4 or 6 inch wide elastic as the back. So instead of a piece of vinyl or fabric on the back, you use that extra wide elastic, which I happen to have some cut right here. You can use this extra wide elastic, and that will actually let you use these holders on, these covers on holders that are slightly bigger than this one even. So it'll give you a little bit more options. I like options. I'm kind of in this rabbit hole at the moment for these napkin covers. I have a whole bunch of them stitched out in my kitchen. I do have sign-ups for an actual show this summer, which I don't do that very often. So I am working on, here we go, got it all trimmed out. I am working on some stock to take with me, some inventory to have at the show. And I'm hoping that, where is my thread? Oh, here it is. I'm hoping that these napkin holder covers sell really well for me. I have sold quite a few of these just from people seeing them on my personal Facebook page, and I've got a few friends that are in this group that do not have an embroidery machine, but they watch what I'm doing, and I actually had one reach out and order several of these. So I have most of the ones that she wants stitched out. I just need to circle back and take a look at my list and see what fill-ins I need to do. I didn't trim this quite close enough here. Let me get rid of that. Here we go. All right. So now it's going to stitch the satin around the arrow. And then it will stitch, after that, the placement stitch to line up the top. While that is way over here, I'm going to go ahead and throw this thread tail. There we go. So, hi, Deborah. How are you? See, I told you I'd be back. So, I hope you can follow along with this one. I tried to make the instructions as clear as possible. So if there's anything you don't understand in any of the instructions, just let me know and I will try and work that out. I can help. I appreciate Jill popping in and answering questions for me. She's done a few of these as well. So she's one of my testers and has been for several years. And she's a great help. She lets me bounce ideas off of her. She gives me suggestions. She gives me design ideas. And she's been with me for a long time, and I truly appreciate it. I do have a really good group of testers. Oh, you're very welcome, Deborah. It's been a really long week. It's hard for me to get to the shop during the week because I don't get home until really late, and I go to work in the morning. We've also had crazy rain, and walking in my yard before today would have been like walking in a bathtub with water up to my ankles. It's just been a slushy mess. And luckily my building is at the bottom of a hill, so the water has drained away and toward the pond, which is where we want it. So it wasn't too bad walking out here tonight, but yesterday it was a slushy mess, so I would not have made it out here without waders on. Or for the folks from Louisiana, we call those hackberry Reeboks. There's some white rubber boots or some LSU rubber boots. I bet Penny's got some rubber boots. Are you still on here, Penny? Who's on here with me? You guys say hi. I see some little faces on the corner of my screen over there that tells me who is here, but I only see 4 faces and my eyeball count's bigger than that. So, wellies. Girl, why do you call them wellies? You from Louisiana. I never called them wellies. I'm from Louisiana too. Where'd you get that name from? Hi, Linda. How are you? Yes, Penny. Hip boots are needed. That's for sure. I stopped at the end of the driveway, North Dakota. Oh, good Lord. Hey, Peggy. I stopped at the end of the driveway tonight when I got home from work just so I could see the pond. And I'm glad that it didn't rain today, because if it had, one little piece of the levee on the pond probably would have flooded over on the other side. So we're going to have to either move some dirt around or get another load of dirt and build up that levee on one side. I'm just really excited about the pond. I did walk through some slushy, spongy dirt and mud to get to it to take some pictures. But as I was standing there, I was looking down in the water and stuff, and there's, I don't know how many little tiny tadpoles. The tadpoles are probably no bigger than the end of my pins here, of the little yellow plastic part, and this is just a regular sewing pin. But there were lots and lots of little tadpoles all swimming in the shallow part. So my minnows and my bluegill get to eat some tadpoles. I guess that's a little gourmet for them. I don't know. But then my husband said there's been a crane in the pond every day this week. So I'm sure that thing's probably trying to eat my minnows and the bluegill. So we're trying to build up our feed system for the bigger fish we want to put in next year. So we want to introduce some bass. I think Luke might want crappie in there. So we'll see what happens. Yes, Penny is very full. Now it should go down a little bit. We're supposed to be in the 80s and 90s for the next few days and no rain. So some of it will evaporate or soak back into the dirt around it. But all right. So now the satin around the arrow has finished. And if you guys have stitched any of these other signs out yet, you're going to know that it leaves the top without satin stitching at the top of the arrow. And that is because this part of your sign on this side is going to fit under there, and it's going to cover the edge of that arrow with the sign. Right now I'm stitching the placement for the sign. So on the sign itself, the satin goes almost all the way around the top. It's got one little edge and then these 3 straight lines here that don't have a satin on them. And that is the part that you're going to line up on this one. So I got a thread tail here. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Let me get rid of this little thing here. Okay. So if you notice that there is a line here, and I am using the contrasting thread for 2 reasons. 1, because you can see it, but 2, because it's going to match the sign itself. But this 3 straight lines is what the bottom of the sign gets up to. So I'm going to line that up, slightly covering, and just barely covering those stitches. So what you want to do, the idea behind it is, after you've cut your sign, you have a very tiny trim allowance around the edge of your sign. So you want to make sure that you're lining up the stitch lines, which means that you've got to cover it up just a little bit all the way around. Now, again, I'm going to use Scotch tape. I am not going to use pins or anything here. I don't have enough excess, that's for sure, and I don't want to poke holes in my finished design. So I am going to line this up as close to the stitch line as I can from the other one. And I'm going to tape it down across the top. Anywhere where there's existing satin stitching, you can tape it because it's not going to be stitched over that tape again. All right. And I'm going to get it lined up really well for you. Be really careful with this so that you make sure that you get your stuff lined up properly so that your design actually stitches the way it's supposed to stitch. So I'll show you guys in a second. This takes a little bit of maneuvering because I keep lifting the corner to make sure that I got it right and everything. Okay, so right now I just have a piece of tape on either side just holding it up because I want to show you something. So if you look over here, I'm going to lift that just a little bit. The top of that arrow doesn't have any satin stitching. That's because your satin stitching is here. So the satin stitching that's getting ready to stitch here in a couple minutes is going to cover all of this edge around the bottom and up on this edge as well. And it's going to meet, if you've got it lined up properly, it's going to meet the ends of the satin stitching that you did in the first hooping. So if you can see, there's my line, my placement stitch, and I'm just going to make sure that it is covering it. Hey, Amy. Hey, Danny. This is, I'm probably going to put another piece of tape up there. So, okay, so I'm just going to put another piece of tape up there just to hold it in place. I do have my extra finger here, the wooden one, that doesn't get hurt if the machine hits it. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of just keep the, there we go. Okay, now if you've stitched any of these from me, you'll know that I always run a single bean over that placement stitch before we do the satin stitching. The reason for that is if you sew the bean stitch and you notice that your design is not quite lined up properly, and mine is not, you can unpick a single bean a lot easier than you can unpick a satin stitch. So if you notice here, I am a little bit off on this corner. So I'm going to unpick this edge and move that up. It must have shifted when I taped it, or who knows. So like I said, it's going to be a lot easier to unpick a single bean than it is a full satin stitch. And where it's at, it's not that far out of alignment. So the satin stitch that's going to go over it will cover these little holes that these stitches created. So when you're watching videos in my shed here, sometimes you learn what not to do, and you learn how to fix things because, you know, it's necessary to fix things sometimes. If you guys have any cheat sheets or notes or anything like that, let me know. I am happy to learn things and to share tips, to share the mistakes I've made and the successes that I've had. And I invite you guys to do that too. This group has always been a really good group of people. We've got a lot of quiet members, but we also have a lot of very active members. People come and go. They stick around. They interact with other people quite a bit, and then they're quiet. I know, you know, life happens. We've got a lot of stay-at-home folks. Some of them stay at home by choice, and others were stay at home during COVID, and it just hasn't gone back to physical work location. They're working from home. A lot of that's still going on. I didn't ever stay home during COVID, but okay, so I got the top part unpicked here. Now I'm going to finish unpicking this bottom part and move it over. And I can tell I need to get some like elevator music or something, because I'm sure you guys are probably not really. Let me get that out of the way. Oh, there we go. That's easier. Okay, so there we go. It's a lot easier. Okay, so I'm just going to move this up just a little bit on the one edge, but I needed to unpick it far enough that the, there we go. Oh, that's even better. I needed to unpick it far enough that I could actually move it without it getting in the way of something else. So, all right, so I got it unpicked. I have it relined up again over here on this side. So I am going to just put another piece of tape up here on this top edge. There we go. I've watched a lot of other designers do lives. Some of them make no mistakes. They're flawless. They've probably stitched the same thing, oh, you know, 10 or 12 times before they put it on video, and that's probably where their mistakes happen. There we go. That's better. Okay, now that's going to come up. So what happens on a lot of times is you stitch something out numerous times, you get your kinks worked out, and then when you actually do the video, hey Tammy, hey Laura, when you do get your video done, it's almost perfect because you've already worked out all the kinks and you've stitched and stitched and stitched the same thing several times. I am not that kind of person. I am definitely, let me get rid of these little thread tails here. I am definitely a, I'm going to go for it the first time kind of person, and we see what happens. So you guys just got to watch me unpick thread. Me too, Tammy. I show my mistakes because you know what? Nothing's ever perfect, and it might help somebody understand how to fix a mistake or avoid one if that's the case, because I've learned how to avoid things by making the mistakes, believe me. Penny, what mistake are you going to post? Oh, the one you put in the tester group? Go for it. I need you to. I know about the what not to do, believe me. So, this video is probably a little longer than I intended it to be, just because I have to do the mistakes. But, anyway. I am also, before I go in for the night, because it's 9:30 at night. We are leaving the house between 7 and 7:30 in the morning to drive for not quite 3 hours to get to our son tomorrow. So I'm not going to stay up really late tonight, but I do have something in testing that I haven't been able to test since I made some changes to it last week because I haven't been in the building. So it's a pretty quick stitch out, but I'm not going to make a video. I want to get it tested out and make sure there's no major changes to be done on it, and then I'll probably release some of those. I have 3 or 4 of them done. Aha, here we go. Oh, that's going to be perfect, guys. That's just going to be perfect. I'm really excited about this one. Even though I had to fight with the reflective thread, I think this one's going to be really cool looking. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. We're going up. Tomorrow's my husband's birthday. Sunday is Mother's Day. Our son gets keys to his new apartment tomorrow. And he had ordered a new phone and it came in today, so we're taking that up there to him. So we're going to get there early enough to have lunch with him because he's got to work at either 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. So we've got to get up there early enough to visit for a bit, go see his new apartment, and go have lunch with him, and then head back down. So we're going to be on the road quite a bit tomorrow. So almost 6 hours of drive time plus our visiting. It's definitely a day trip when we go up there. When we lived in town, it was right at 2 hours to get to him. But we moved a year into him being in college, so oh my gosh, y'all, this is coming out so pretty. I love that maroon vinyl. I want to say it's called Brilliant. I don't know. I'll have to look back on my punk embroidery stuff. Okay, so now we come to, oops, for whatever reason that thread didn't cut. There we go. So I'm going to show you guys underneath this piece of tape. I'm going to just move that out of the way. You can see that there is no satin stitching under there. Your sign covers that. I could have added satin stitching. I just personally think this works just fine without it. So now I'm going to add the back piece. And again, you could use the elastic to give yourself some, you know, more options on the size of size of holder if you use one that's a little bit bigger. I'm just going to use the same one I have because I did not buy one case of 24. I bought 3 cases of 24. So I have, you know, almost 75 of these little buggers hanging around, plus the handful that I bought at the store. So I probably have closer to 80 total holders. So I'm just going to put my other piece on the back, and I am using, this is silver, oh my gosh, from My Punk Embroidery, but it is silver patent. So it just looks metallic and shiny and pretty, and I love it. Hi, Grace. How are you? Anyway, this is what I'm getting ready to do. So I have to move the sign down out of the way. So if you give me just a minute, I am going to tape it. And this one has this little corner over here, just for the sake of the design or the shape of it here, is a little bit difficult to hold out of the way. So I'm going to slow my machine down. And I am definitely going to use my wooden finger and help to hold this piece out of my way so I don't, let me get that on here, so I don't jam my machine or anything like that. I don't want to do that. I am securing the back piece of vinyl out of the way, and then I will tape that sign down, fold it completely out of the stitch line. These do take a little bit of practice to get them lined up properly, so you guys don't rush it. If you're stitching one of these out, please don't rush through them. Make sure that you are, oh, let me fix that real quick. There we go. Make sure that you are lining them up properly. Because you don't want to have your good stuff wasted by not being lined up properly. So I wasn't lined up properly. I didn't have the full stitch line covered in the back. So I just undid everything and now it's completely covered. So I am going to put this sign out of the way. Completely out of the way. And I'm just going to tape it to beat the band, as we used to say. It's going to have a lot of tape on it because I'm doing these in vinyl. And depending on the vinyl that you use, some of them are very, very rigid. Others are not. So you can actually use a thinner vinyl or a canvas or something that's much more pliable. This particular vinyl is a little bit stiffer. So I'm just going to tape it down. And I put another piece of tape across the vertical pieces. I put a horizontal piece across here just to help hold it out of the way. So I'm going to just pop this back in the machine. I'm going to slow my machine down a little bit. This is really for the final bean stitch all the way around. So it's going to, let's see, it's going to stitch just around the arch. The bottom is not going to stitch, otherwise your holder would be useless. Now again, I've got my wooden finger, my chopstick, my hair pick, whatever you want to use. Just make sure that it is something that you can keep at a distance. Here we go. Keep at a distance so that it's not in your way. Now, I made sure to be really careful to make sure to fold this down so that I'm going to stop that for 1 second. This little number 6 thread guide that you actually secure the needle in with on this particular machine has a piece that sticks out over here. I don't want that to hit this. So when it comes around this corner over here, it may, that's why you want to make sure that you tucked your vinyl in and completely out of the way and give it enough clearance for your machine. So again, I'm just going to keep my little finger here, my little wooden finger, and it is stitching slowly and making sure, aha, one little thing got out of the way, so I'm going to move that over. Okay, so I'm going to go back about 2 or 3 stitches because I don't think you can see it, but I didn't get the edge of the sign tucked in quite good enough. And back here on the back side of my needle, it did get out of alignment just a little bit. So let me fix that really quick. Okay, so I'm going to have some stitches that I'm going to have to, See, again, tonight is the night of what not to do. All right. So let me, all right. Okay, so hang on just a second, you guys. I am going to clip this and fix this really quick. I know you don't want to see this, but again, this is one of those things of what not to do. So what I've done is I got it offline just a little bit, so I'm going to have to fix it. Hey, Rainy, how are you? So I'm going to fix it. I'm going to trim this out anyway at the end, but this one, it got caught on this edge right here a little bit. So just make sure that when you're folding these under, you tuck them in really, really well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off my machine so that my hoop realigns itself perfectly. And then I'm just going to pop this right back in there. Okay, so now my hoop has rethreaded, or, oh, let's see. My hoop has readjusted itself to the center. I am going to put this back in my machine. I'm not going to drop the needle down. Okay. Nope, that's not right. All right, so I don't want to do that. So let's do this. We're just going to reload the whole thing. Okay. You guys really are getting a what not to do lesson tonight. This one will actually be just for me. So I'm just going to keep it for me, but I do want to finish it and show you what's going on with it. Before I come back over here to this side, I am going to tuck that one edge under a little bit more. Okay, this will be the back side of the sign, but I'm going to tuck it under a little bit more so it doesn't get caught. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to come up 10, 10, 10. Okay, so I'm just going to let it do its business. Okay, so I'm just going to go back over that, and I am going to watch it carefully as it gets over here, just to make sure. And it is going to hit that again, so let me just, I'm going to inch this thing over. Okay, now, what I'm going to do, I do not recommend for you guys, I'm probably going to move this sign over just a hair on this particular one. Did not have this issue with the others, so I'm not sure why this one, it's probably just the way I had it folded. It's probably just the way I had it folded. So now I've just taken that tape off and laid it back. So it's going to be fine now. I'm going to go ahead and finish it. Get that out of the way. Yeah. There we go. That was a good save for something that I'm going to keep on my counter. I'm totally happy with it. All right, so that concludes your lessons in what not to do. So there you go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and trim this out, and I'll post some pictures of it, but most of it, you're not even going to be able to see the mistake I made over here at all, because the sign is going to cover all but one little pinhole up right there. But I am going to fix it, and I am going to use it because I really, really like it. I'm curious to see what this reflective thread is going to look like once I get it in my kitchen. So I appreciate you guys sticking around tonight and dealing with me and the what not to do's. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.